How does this war end?
It doesn't. Klingons have tasted your blood. Conquer us, or we will never relent.
Surprisingly, one of the most fascinating characters on Star Trek Discovery has consistently been L'Rell. While not officially one of the main cast, L'Rell, played by the powerful Mary Chieffo, has appeared on most episodes of Discovery, including the very first episode. While one could initially have dismissed her, L'Rell quickly developed into one of the most complex and flawed characters on the show, despite her limited screen time.
You think your discovery made moments ago is somehow greater than the pain I have lived with all this time?
So let's take a moment to break down the themes surrounding L'Rell, and how her character, in Grand Trek tradition, speaks to issues that we face today. First and foremost, L'Rell exemplifies a metaphor about women's access to and challenges in leadership. When we first meet L'Rell, it's as one of the Klingon messiah figure T'Kuvma's followers. We later learn that she has been a disciple of T'Kuvma for many years. Yet when it came time for T'Kuvma to choose a new torchbearer, he picked the relatively unaccomplished Voq. While certainly Voq proved worthy of the title in both faith and skill, Voq himself later made note of the oversight of L'Rell for the torchbearer position. Indeed, while L'Rell's gender is never explicitly noted to be what kept her out of power, we cannot help but see the parallels to the glass ceiling. The glass ceiling is a metaphor used to represent an invisible barrier that keeps women, or any demographic, from rising beyond a certain level of power. For a glass ceiling to exist, there must be, quote, gender inequality in the chances of advancement into higher levels, that increases over the course of a career. Despite L'Rell's years of devotion, she was not even considered for advancement. It's not even new for the world of Star Trek. The original pilot for Star Trek, The Cage, featured a powerful female first officer of the Enterprise under Captain Pike. But her character was removed from the second pilot of Star Trek at the network's request, because they didn't think that audiences would accept a female first officer.
It's just that I can't get used to having a woman on the bridge.
Indeed, we know that keeping women from power is not uncommon within the Klingon world. Yet, L'Rell herself notes that she never wanted the spotlight, which also might explain why she never stepped up to be the torchbearer in the first place. She states she would rather work from the shadows. However, powerful women are quite often relegated to the side, and often look for power from tangential means. This is not even uncommon in genre fiction. Women who were denied leadership roles often have to work from behind the scenes in order to gain power. Powerful women and women who find power on the fringes are often vilified throughout Western culture. We see evidence of this in the character tropes like the witch, or how poison is thought of as a women's weapon, or how women are often seen as conniving, liars, or deceivers. L'Rell herself has been called all of these things before. Yet, she owns these labels and seems content to manipulate events from the shadows. However, at the end of Season 1, we see her decide instead to take power for herself. While initially skeptical of her own abilities to be Chancellor, Tyler/Voq convinces her of her own abilities and strength.
I am no one.
You once told Voq that you didn't want the mantle of leadership. It's time for you to leave the shadows.
she steps out of the shadows and into the role of Chancellor, the most powerful position in the Klingon hierarchy, at least that we know of. However, once L'Rell becomes Chancellor, we see her face similar critiques and criticisms that many women in power face, such as overly critical peers. Women leaders are often held to different standards than their male counterparts. Many in Klingon government characterize L'Rell as weak, seeing symbols of her lack of power even in unrelated events.
It is no coincidence those 7 red lights appeared from the sky so soon after she took power. They are an omen!
Some also call her too emotional, allowing her sentimentality for Tyler/Voq to cloud her judgment. As Emperor Georgiou points out, some even believe that L'Rell is simply a puppet, and that Tyler must truly be calling the shots.
They will assume that all your decisions are Tyler's. He is a liability. Can you kill him? He is a liability too. You can't show weakness when it comes to either one of them.
I will not choose between the Chancellorship and my son and his father.
Arguments of being weak, emotional, or simply a figurehead for a male leader are common criticisms against women in power, all standards that their male counterparts rarely are ever criticized for. Like many women in power, L'Rell's family represents a liability for her. In order to be accepted, L'Rell has to literally behead her lover and child to be seen as unburdened and worthy of command. It's powerful and intense symbolism, showing how women often feel the need to sacrifice a personal life and family in order to hold on to a position of power. Yet it's also fitting that L'Rell demands she be called Mother, a distinctly feminine title, over Chancellor. It shows that L'Rell wishes to reframe her gender as something worthy of strength rather than condescension, and she is perhaps reclaiming a form of her own power by doing so.
From this point forth, you may call me Mother.
Yet, it would be overly simplistic to look at L'Rell only as a metaphor for gender politics. She also presents a fascinating, ever-evolving ideology over the course of the series so far. As a follower of T'Kuvma, L'Rell is devoted to the idea of remain Klingon, to fight against what she believes is Federation hegemony.
We fight to preserve Klingon identity.
No one is looking to destroy your culture. Our laws are founded in equality, freedom.
T'Kuvma taught us that the Federation cannot help itself. It seeks universal homogenization and assimilation.
She constantly disbelieves that the Federation is a place where diversity is encouraged, but instead sees it as an instrument of cultural erasure. Under T'Kuvma's words, she espouses the belief that all Klingons need to join together to fight against the Federation. Yet, it's ironic that this very ideology ends up leading to its own contradictions. L'Rell herself even states the antithesis of the argument.
Kullaj is the it. We yerlo berech diom. Matfu putdaj bidev.
Shaile nitachach. Her moch churnech. T'Kuvma tuchnir gar chrabu a shoswitud cha mokai tuk Bedwe tuk, todwe pu netmech, nikwe pu chach. Pukjek tachfish. Betlech monob shosh. Edge. Tikwich vichernech. Watuk vewiv erach. Ach. Cha. Vitroit me. Kri vichenmoch.
Her heritage shows that she herself has found a way to build a bridge between two houses, or two cultures, in order to find harmony between the two. Like many characters on Discovery, L'Rell is able to synthesize two seemingly opposing ideologies. And it's this variability, not uncoincidentally, that leads L'Rell to a similar end as the Federation's ideal of acceptance of cultural diversity and unification. At the end of Season 1, L'Rell has unified all of the Klingon houses into one government, just as the Federation unifies different cultures as a society.
What tai choslau? Hot wo hos push. So T'Kuvma. What dol did da kap chat ma los tupe. No ma tai cho. De we hope culture e ha ha. Ah. Ma hope tak mo. Hope maj we wishful.
While certainly, L'Rell still displays a dislike of what she incorrectly sees as Federation assimilation, it's clear that L'Rell is being set up to slowly learn the power of diversity over hegemony, consensus over uniformity.
Just like the allied Klingon houses, our union is what makes us strong. Your old way of thinking kept us at each other's throats. Remove the paint from your face, Kolsha. We are one culture now.
This would also make sense in universe, because we ultimately know that the Klingons eventually find a way to make peace with the Federation, as shown in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, though that does take a planet blowing up for that to occur. It's also worth noting that L'Rell's leadership is not unproblematic. In the era of Me Too, it's worth taking a look at the very real rape that L'Rell commits against Tyler/Voq.
Touch me. And that intimacy, to me, Tyler, feels like violation.
While L'Rell did have a consenting sexual partner with Voq, Tyler suffers from PTSD due to the sexual assault he felt at the hands of L'Rell. While the circumstances surrounding that assault are not clear, there are several modern contexts we could discuss it in, such as how it's important for partners to constantly get consent from their partners, and should not assume prior consent means future consent. Sadly, this is perhaps one area where Discovery may somewhat fail, as it never really sinks its teeth deep into this issue, at least not yet. While it's important that the show is acknowledging that men can also be the victims of rape, hopefully this will be an area that the show will tastefully explore further in the future. Moving on, Discovery is a show that loves to work with the idea of foils or mirror images. While we can read L'Rell's evolving ideology as a dark reflection of the Federation, we can also read L'Rell as a mirror of Michael Burnham. First and foremost, both L'Rell and Burnham fight with opposing sides of themselves. Burnham fights her Vulcan and human upbringings, while L'Rell fights being from two houses as well as with two opposing Klingon viewpoints. Remain Klingon or build a bridge. Both L'Rell and Burnham also have a relationship with Tyler/Voq. We could read this as a supposed change in Tyler/Voq himself, going from loving L'Rell to loving Burnham, but we eventually learn that it's more complicated than that, as both Tyler/Voq has feelings for both women. This is perhaps because Tyler/Voq sees something similar in both women that he finds attractive, a belief in the betterment of their societies and who they are as people. Both Burnham and L'Rell are idealistic, filled with hope despite knowing that their flaws prevent them from ever achieving that perfect idealism. It's in this way that by understanding L'Rell, we can understand both the series' main character Burnham and the series' themes as a whole.
We have to be torchbearers, casting the light so we may see our path to lasting peace.
All of these elements of L'Rell build us a complex character, one who is not easily categorized as hero or a villain. She is not wholly sympathetic, nor is she worthy of hate. As a result, L'Rell perhaps represents the best encapsulation of what Star Trek Discovery has aimed to do so far. Show us how flawed beings can work to improve themselves in order to strive for a better tomorrow, knowing that even if their failings cause them to fall short of that idealized future we all hope for, it's the attempt to fight for that future that is what really matters. And it's an idea that the great bird of the galaxy Gene Roddenberry himself has stated. It is the struggle itself that is most important. We must strive to be more than we are. It does not matter that we will not reach our ultimate goal. The effort itself yields its own reward. While certainly L'Rell has stories to tell on Discovery, she has perhaps already left her mark as one of the most interesting characters in Trek canon, and one that speaks to the vision that Gene Roddenberry had for Star Trek in the first place. Thank you so much for watching this video about L'Rell. For me, L'Rell is one of my favorite Discovery characters, and is perhaps the first Klingon besides maybe Martok that I actually find myself excited to see more of. But enough of what I think. Comment below with your own thoughts. I'd love to hear more discussion and if you agree or disagree with my analysis. Speaking of Discovery character analysis, I'm going to be doing more of these videos. And if you're interested in that, or weekly Discovery reviews, or other discussions of Trek, as well as analysis of other elements of geek culture, not to mention LGBTQ culture, consider checking out my channel. I release new videos every Friday, on top of my Discovery reviews every Thursday. If any of that interests you, I'd appreciate you giving my channel a subscribe. Until next time, Yinich Yish Ek Yiship. That was me attempting to say live long and prosper in Klingon. I probably failed.